Hello, I'm Pesce. I'm an entrepreneur and writer, and in today's episode of Belle's Journal, I will talk about how to turn mathematics into something fun. And this is a story from 15 years ago when I was in fifth and sixth grade. I was like 10, 11 years old. And I had a math teacher that had a very peculiar way of teaching math. Every day she would start the class. She would start whatever she had to talk about in the following way. She would go to the blackboard, put number one, write like an equation there, and then people would write the equation on their notebooks. And if you were done with that exercise, you would just raise your hands. She would start from one side of the room. She would pick the people who had their hands on, and they would had their hands up. They would go 10 people to one side, 10 other people to the other side, and then the ones who were still sitting, they would go line by line, and they would solve the equation. And this was really interesting because after the equation was solved, then you had one answer. People would look at it and say, okay, I'll check from my notebook. The answer was right. If the answer was right, you would keep standing up with your notebook. If the answer was wrong, you would just sit down. And she would get those two groups. The group that had more people would go and get something she would call roscas, which we didn't know what it was at the time. A couple of years later on, I started learning Japanese. And then I realized that these were Japanese characters. Well, in any case, why roscas were so amazing and so much fun? Because if you had a minimum number of roscas, you didn't take homework home. That's the deal that she would do. And whenever she was comparing groups, if everyone in the group had got it right, you would get double rosca, two roscas. And that was the way in which she was doing her classes to make it more fun. Of course, not everything is perfect. People who didn't love math sometimes would feel a little pressure. But think about it. When I compared to other people, right, to other classes I had, all their classes were so boring. The professors would go in, they would write on the blackboard, and that's it, right? They would be there for an hour and you'd be just listening. In this classroom, you would always participate. Like in her class, you would always participate, and you could go for the roscas. And if you were helping your friends that were not doing well and they started doing well, you would get double rosca. So she gamified mathematics. That's what she did. And that's something I wanted to share with you because the way you teach something changes how interesting someone is in that topic. That's the tip I wanted to give to you today in today's episode. If you like that tip, like the video, comment the video, share the video with your friends. If you want to suggest a theme, or if you use a notebook, a journal, and want to tell me some story you've written in your journal, please comment here. I would love to learn more about it. We also have, if you're watching this video on Facebook, we also have a YouTube channel, Belle's Journal. If you're watching that on the YouTube channel, we also have a Facebook page, Belle Pesce English version, and we also have a podcast, Belle's Journal. I hope you enjoyed. If you're asking who am I, who is the crazy Brazilian lady talking about journals, I'm a businesswoman from Brazil. I have 4 businesses. I have a publishing business called Encla. I have an agency, both a traditional and digital-based agency called Figurinhas. I have an education startup called Fazinova with over 150,000 students. And I have a technology startup called Bidream, which you can access through bidream.me. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next Belle's Journal.